Oh boy. Does not look that way. Oh boy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Program Yourself Thin podcast. Today, we're talking about the rituals that make you thin. Before I share what those are with you, I want to talk about rituals first, because I think having rituals in your life, and that's, is that the right word? Patterns, rituals, habits, routines, whatever word we want to pick, right? So I don't want to give any extra meaning to rituals than what I mean there. I'm just talking about something you do consistently, habitually, on your autopilot. That's the goal. And I think that as you appreciate the value of rituals in your weight loss process, you're going to find that that's one of the missing pieces. Because the way I think of rituals, routines, patterns, habits is that they're running on autopilot, that you don't need to think about them. And the ultimate ritual routine you've got is probably brushing your teeth. And it's just something you do automatically, right? Whenever you do it, at least probably the morning and the night. And it's just weaved into your day. And you don't need to think about it. You just naturally, automatically do it at that time, in that place, in that situation. And that allows you to not have to think about it and have the teeth that you want to have, right? Because otherwise, like, imagine you had to remember to brush your teeth all the time. What would happen is you wouldn't brush them a lot, right? So again, the point of this being that your brain, I think, it certainly has the ability to program things into it so it does it automatically. So why not utilize that? And I don't think people do. I think when people approach their weight loss, they think of it very consciously. Like, I need to remember to do that. I need to get myself to do that. I need to force myself to do that. And they're trying to be very present in the moment to make the right choice in the moment. But that's not how your brain operates. Your brain is primarily a subconscious brain that does what it's been trained to do. And so when I talk about rituals, really there's 2 points to it. There's the ritual and the routine of adding something new in, but there's simultaneously the ritual and routine of what you currently do to weigh what you weigh. And I think that as soon as you start realizing, you start focusing on your rituals, your routines, your habits, good and bad, it's very clarifying, because never are you going to live a life where you are just consciously always present in the moment, making the decisions that get you the weight you want. And I think that's why dieting doesn't work in a nutshell, is you're not built to be present in the moment, always able to just make conscious, logical, well-made choices. It just doesn't work that way. You work on autopilot. You do what you've been trained to do. You do what you naturally and automatically do. And when you realize that, then you can start being way more strategic with how you're setting up your weight loss. And you can start to look at the rituals, routines, habits you have now that are giving you the weight you have now, and then the ones you would need to add in order to create the weight, the health, the happiness that you want to have. And when you start looking at it through that lens, with that mindset, I think it sets you up for much more success, because we're looking for routines and rituals that run automatically. And we want the good ones to continue, and the ones we're not happy with, we want to change. But we want those to run on autopilot too. So everything we're thinking about is always aiming at it being a ritual, being automatic, routine, something that we do kind of in the back of our minds running it. And you have these things in your life. And so as you start to look at your reality through that lens, you start to strategically and systematically move yourself in the direction of dedicating yourself to the habits, you know what I mean, to the routines, the rituals, working on installing those so that they run themselves. And again, I bring you back to brushing your teeth. That brushing your teeth is something that when you were a kid, you installed it in. And now for the rest of your life, you get the benefit of having that behavior run in the background automatically, right? And your teeth are the better for it. And so again, if you can start to think of your weight, your health, your happiness through this lens as well, I think it sets you up for much more success. And I think it's very important to do this because I think dieting is always saying, no, the secret to success is just to always be present, always make the right choice. But that's not real. That's not really an option. Humans are not built to be present in the moment, always able to make the right choice. We're built to basically run on autopilot, to do what we did and just keep doing it. So the more you focus on your habits and your routines, I think the better you're going to find that your results get. And I hope this helps you out. And if you want to go deeper into this process, want some support with it, click the link in my bio, go to Program Yourself, then get the free hypnosis session I give you. And let me kind of give you firsthand experience. It's free. And you can just see what it feels like to approach things with this approach. Hope this helps you out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. So I missed y'all yesterday, but nice to be back. Let me see. Someone asked something. Celeste says, changed eating habits, started gym. I feel like I'm getting bigger. Is it inflammation? Changed eating habits, started gym. I feel like I'm getting bigger. Well, let's deconstruct that because that's very common. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. And, I apologize over to my Instagram people. I feel like I am zoomed in on myself. I do not know why it's showing up that way. It's making me crazy. Let me see if I can fix it real quick. I know this isn't going to fix it. I don't know why it's not. Well, Instagram, I'm sorry. You're getting the. Yeah. Can't fix it. Oh, well, I'll be zoomed in today. I don't like it. All right. Anyways, okay. Started changing eating habits and started the gym. I feel bigger. Very common. How can this be? There's a couple of reasons going on here, most likely. Number one, when we start the gym, you got to watch out for the gym. I'm not a huge fan of the gym workouts when you want to start losing weight. I don't like it. Don't like it a lot at all. First problem with working out when you want to lose weight is that you get hungrier. Okay. So listen, exercising and working out are great too, by the way. I make that crystal clear. I'm not telling you not to work out, not to exercise. I think they're great. But when it comes to weight loss, I find them to be counterproductive a lot of times because as soon as you start working out, now, again, if you're the average person who starts working out, you're probably working out hard, right? Because you're not going to start out slow. We don't want slow results. We want fast results. So we're going to hit the gym hard and most likely it's new. So you have to use the energy to get yourself to actually do it. It takes a lot of willpower and effort and energy to get yourself to the gym and start working out. Okay. So that's number one. So you're depleting a lot of energy just to get yourself there. Number two is you're working out a lot. And so now your body's like, holy shit. Right. And it's like, I got to recover. Right. So now your body's tired. Right. So now we got the energy you use from getting yourself to go to the gym, the energy that you use actually working out, and then your body needing to recover. Okay. So now we're more tired. Now, the next thing is you're usually hungrier, right? Because you burned a lot more energy, you work your muscles out. Now you need to replenish them. And so now your body says, hey, hunger signal, let's eat. Okay. And then the final piece is the licensing effect, which is your brain saying, oh my God, look at me. I went to the gym today and I probably burned 800 calories today. So I can have that 300 calorie muffin or whatever. And then we eat more than we think we're eating. And we tend to get those numbers mixed up anyways, where in reality, you probably burn 300 calories and muffin was probably 800 calories. So those are some factors why starting your weight loss with working out, I think is a bad idea for most people because of those things. It makes you more tired. It reduces your willpower and ability to make good choices because you use it for the gym. You're hungrier because your body is trying to repair itself and replenish itself. And then there's a licensing effect where you say, oh, I did something great. So now, I can have a muffin, I can have a piece of pizza. And I know you don't believe any of these things probably, but I've seen them show up over and over and over again with people when they try and do that. Okay. Now adding on to that, I feel like I'm getting bigger. When I see things like I feel like I'm getting bigger, I'm seeing vague language and I don't know what that means. So I don't know if you've been weighing yourself and the scale's going up, because then you would say I'm getting bigger. So I'm assuming it's not that. And so maybe your clothes just still feel tight. Maybe you just feel like you haven't lost weight. It seems vague to me, which means in my mind that there's a vague measurement strategy going on. So I don't know if you're just looking in the mirror, testing clothes, just figuring out if you look or feel different. All those are horrible because your brain, depending on your mood, is going to dictate what you notice. So if you go, I don't know, You're working out and you're eating and you're in a bad mood. All of a sudden you look at yourself, I'm not even losing any weight. I don't even look any different. I feel like I'm bigger actually. And you may be bigger. You may be bigger. Again, I don't know how long you've been do work in the gym, but you might be adding some muscle. You know what I mean? Like that might be doing it. Yes, inflammation is a possibility, I suppose. Could be water weight. I mean, there's just a lot of factors. So the big thing I would say to you, Celeste, is I don't know your time frame of how long you've been changing your eating habits and starting the gym. That's really important. I don't know what your measurement strategy is. It doesn't sound very specific, which is a big problem because when we have vague measurement systems, like I'm going to see how my clothes fit, or I'm going to look in the mirror, these things are unclear. And there's a lot of room for your brain to mess up what you're seeing and to be inaccurate. Let's put it that way. So you would want to get more specific. I'd want to weigh myself on a scale. I'd want to get more specific, detailed information about what was happening in my body first off. Okay. And then I would take everything else I was talking about into account. I would dial back on the gym. Personally, I would put all that energy into cleaning up my eating. Now, again, it depends what your goals are. If you're looking to build muscle for whatever reason, then don't listen to that. But if your goal is primarily weight loss, you're all going to be way better off. You're going to get way more bang for your buck weight loss wise, putting your energy into changing your eating than you will going to the gym. So hope that helps. But again, if you want to follow up on that, give me more specifics, I will happy to continue talking about it. So he says, I feel like I lose weight when I'm not trying to, but it can't when I actually want to. That's totally true. That's a real thing. Absolutely. That is so true. I mean, that's literally Program Yourself Thin is built all around that idea. Yeah. In my opinion, the best weight loss has to be achieved almost in a sneaky way. I say this all the time. Like the ideal in my world is that the weight loss almost becomes a secondary effect of something else you're focusing on, which is why a lot of times in Program Yourself Thin, we talk about taking your weight loss, wrapping it in personal development so that the main focus isn't weight loss. It's actually to become the best version of yourself, become the healthiest, happiest version of you. And the weight loss is almost just like a side effect of that process. And it's built for exactly this reason. There's a lot of mindset stuff that gets triggered off when we get so fixated on weight. There's a lot of things. But one of the biggest things that happens is the more obsessed we get with losing weight, in a weird way, the more we start to reinforce our overweight mindset. And that's part of what you're experiencing. So I would definitely say, Celeste, make sure you go click the link in my bio, go get the hypnosis session and watch the video I made. Because it'll describe and explain, I think, a little bit of what you're talking about. But that's very common. That's not an unusual thing. It's the normal thing. What's up, Don? Dose of gym talk. Yeah, yep. Yeah, sorry I missed y'all yesterday. And a little late today, but it's okay. Better late than never. Had a fun day yesterday, but missed you all. Like to get on the lives. Sometimes you got to live life, and that was yesterday. See someone. Yeah, go on walks. That's enough. Yes, walking is more than enough exercise for you all to lose weight. So, Jay Boogie with the hoodie says calorie deficit plus weight training equals results. Yeah, for sure. Calorie deficit and weight training would equal results. But again, what you always have to watch out for with weight loss specifically is a plan on paper versus a plan in reality. And I think that's the big issue. I think diets are built around the idea of like, what can I write down on paper that's a great plan? Yeah, calorie deficit and weight training, yeah, results. Okay, no doubt. But calorie training while you're weight training is hard. How about that? So yeah, on a very specific level, yes, great. But on a very practical, real level for most people, say you haven't been weight training ever, and you start weight training, you're going to be hungrier. So now it's going to be a lot harder for you to eat in a calorie deficit. Okay. I want to make that crystal clear. If you say, okay, it's Monday, time to start my weight loss plan. And my weight loss plan is to start weight training and to go in a calorie deficit. Great. That plan sounds great. Let me know how it goes, because what's going to happen is you're going to have to use your willpower is a finite resource. You have to understand that. I think a lot of people think of willpower as this non-physical, never-ending source. It's not. your willpower is like a muscle. It's not a muscle, but it's like a muscle in the sense that it can be depleted. They've done studies on this. Roy Baumeister is the guy to go check out. And one of the studies, like, they would give people, they would ask them like math questions, right, that they had to think about, right? And then they would offer them some sweet treat. And the people that did math problems ate way more of the treats than the people that didn't do math problems, because willpower is a prefrontal cortex process and you only have so much energy. So if you use that energy to get yourself to weight train, okay, so if you've never weight trained, you got to get the clothes you need to go to the gym. You got to go to the gym. You got to join the gym. You got to go into the gym and you feel weird because you've never done it before. So you feel awkward. All the people are there. You feel uncomfortable. You got to push yourself through all of that just to get to the weights. And now you got to take the weights with your weak, unmuscular body and start pushing them. And it takes lots and lots and lots of effort and willpower to get yourself to do that. Okay. And so now you finish weightlifting and you're proud of yourself. You're happy you did it, but now your body is tired. You're tired physically because your muscles have been exerted. You're tired mentally and emotionally because you've used all that energy to get yourself to actually do it. And now you're hungrier. And now you're going to eat in a calorie deficit. Yeah, maybe, but probably not. Probably not. Not for long. Maybe for the first couple of days when you're really fired up and excited, but very quickly, you need to keep putting that energy to get yourself to weight train. You finish tired, depleted, hungry, licensing effect, and staying in a calorie deficit is extremely difficult in that scenario. So yes, on paper, absolutely. But in reality, most of you are not going to be able to do that, self included. Liv says, how to stop food noise. Yes, food noise, the big phrase of our lives right now, because it's the medicine, right? That's what the medicine does. It stops the food noise. I've been working on dealing with food noise for over 30 years in a more genuine, natural way. But how do you stop food noise? You're never going to stop food noise. Okay. That's the first thing you have to understand. You're not going to stop food noise. You can lower the volume of it down. You can reduce the frequency and intensity of it. But you're never going to completely get rid of food noise. Why? Because you live in a fucking fun house of food advertising, you know? So one of the biggest components and generators of food noise is food advertising. And food advertising is not just the thousands of ads every day you're exposed to, by the way. Like literally, the ads through your phone, through the radio, through billboards, driving by a restaurant, you know, seeing, you know, like the logos of these places, all of that's advertising. All of that is triggering thoughts in your mind to think about food. Right. And so that's not even including, you walk into a store and you're hit with 1,000 packages. That's all food marketing. Like, again, you know, we're so normalized to it that we can't even see it almost. But, you know, imagine I drop you off in the woods. You're raised in the woods. You're going to have food noise. You're going to think about, I want to eat something. But you're not going to be thinking about food nonstop because you're not conditioned to think about food nonstop in a natural environment. We live in the most it's the most propaganda anyone's ever been exposed to is us right now. Never in the history of the world has anyone even been close to the level of nonstop propaganda messaging, brainwashing, hypnosis, whatever you want to call it. It is nonstop that we're getting these messages of hyper palatable, hyper addictive, ultra formulated foods. So that's why you're never going to be completely free of food noise unless you go live on an island somewhere by yourself. We don't live in a vacuum. We live in a nonstop echo chamber, funhouse mirror world of food advertising. Okay, that's A. So B is, let's just dial it down. How do you do that? Well, I would suggest the best way for you to genuinely reduce your food noise is to start reducing hyper palatable, processed, engineered foods. These foods are created to be as addictive as possible. And so the more addictive something is, the more noise there is for that substance. So one of the best things you can do to start reducing the food noise, not stopping, you're never going to stop it. It's managing, it's dealing with it, it's reducing it, is to start reducing the ultra processed, hyper palatable junk food, fast food, processed food stuff that you're putting into your body. That is another huge source of this food noise. and replace it with whole natural foods. Nothing will quiet your mind down with food noise than eating more whole natural foods. It has a very quieting, calming, centering effect on you. Where all of a sudden you feel grounded because you know what nourishing food feels like, and it quiets your mind. So those are two big steps. Beyond that, and Program Yourself Thin, so much of what we're doing is beginning to influence the conversation in our mind. So for most people, they've never really spent a whole lot of time really focusing on what they say to themselves, how do they talk to themselves, and how to change it. And so a lot of people are walking around completely at the mercy of the advertisers and the culture and the messages that have been put into your mind. And now you think in that constantly. So we need to take back control of that. What are we thinking? What are we saying to ourselves? What are we focusing on? And that's kind of another piece of it. So yes, it's not as easy as injecting yourself, I suppose, right? It's more work, but it's way more long lasting, and there's lots of residual benefits you get as well from that. But yeah, so there's a couple ideas to deal with the food noise. And I could talk about that forever because, again, I mean, like, there's so many things you can do to deal with food noise. Don says, every time I start that brain noise about doing more, I say, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, exactly. Me too. That's one of the biggest shifts I say I made in my own personal life over the last plus 30 years of how to get the results I want is, when I start to feel, I'm very sensitive to how I feel inside. And so if I start to feel a sense of overwhelm with what I'm doing, I will pull back. So I agree with Don 1,000% here that I'm very sensitive because my brain goes into overdrive mode. Right. And again, a lot of people I work with and that kind of resonate with what I'm talking about here are overthinkers, perfectionist, action takers. And so it's like, we're going to do something. We're going to go all the way and do it 100 miles an hour. Okay. And I get that. But when it comes to changing your eating, especially in your lifestyle, trying to do too much too soon is one of the worst things you can do. And so I'm very sensitive to, like, when I'm starting to overwhelm myself, I kind of pull back. Well, let's make it easier. Keep it simple. Yeah. And I think that all the time. Keep it simple, stupid. Right. That's one of the main things I think about literally daily and in all areas of my life, because my brain tends to go, let's do all this. Let's do this. Let's do this. Right to overwhelm. And so I'm sensitive to that, and I'll pull back and I'll say, let's make it easy. Let's make it comfortable. So agreed, done. Speak to Dora says, what does it take to reduce cortisol? I mean, I can't say specifically because everyone's a little different, and that's important to recognize, but some general ideas to reduce cortisol start with your relaxation. Relaxation is a fundamental cornerstone piece of Program Yourself Thin. The idea is we're looking to ground ourselves and calm ourselves down. And I think this is so important. I think it's one of the most overlooked things about weight loss, because most of you, when you try to lose weight, you're already chronically stressed. If you're listening to this right now, there's like a 99% chance all of you, right? And I don't know, maybe there's, 50 people total, because we're screening it from 50 to 100 people here. You're probably all stressed. Unless you're in Program Yourself, then you're actually, like, we're working on it. But if you're just on your own, you're probably up to here with stress. And you've probably been that way for a long time, which is another way to say you're chronically stressed. Chronically. It's the way, it's the norm. It's the usual of being, at least in America in 2025, is you're chronically stressed and have been for decades. Okay. Let's just assume you believe that. So to me, the worst thing you could do with a chronically stressed person is put more stress on them. And that's what I think of every diet, right? There's no diet that give you a little bit of time to recover and then we can start it. It's always starting day one where you're already chronically stressed. And now you're going to add more stress to it in the form of, I'm not going to eat any carbs. I'm going to completely change my eating. I'm going to count every point. I'm going to get myself to work out all the time. You take all this stuff on and you get even more depleted. So Program Yourself Thin is really built around the idea that we're going to relax. We're going to calm down. That's job number one. I don't give a fuck. What are you going to do? Cut half your calories out? I don't give a shit, because it's not going to last. I don't care about things that don't last. I'm not impressed by short-term weight loss that lasts for a month and you put the weight back on. Not at all. It's not what I'm talking about. So to me, the very foundation of this whole approach of living at your goal weight is learning to relax, bring the stress down. And that goes to the cortisol, right? Now, again, there's different things that can cause cortisol things. So I'm not saying this works for everyone the same way, but I think everyone benefits from relaxing and grounding and calming down. And a lot of times what you're going to find is the cortisol is positively impacted by that. And the cortisol levels start to go down and you start to live more of your life. You've got two nervous systems. You got your sympathetic nervous system, your fight, flight, or freeze, and you got your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest, your pause and plan one. And chronic stress leads us to live in this chronically activated sympathetic nervous system state, which tends to have higher cortisol levels. Higher cortisol levels makes it harder to make healthy food choices, gives us more unhealthy cravings, and it triggers our body, as the potential anyways, to cause our body to hold on to the weight, hold on to the fat. So yes, reducing cortisol, I think, is a worthwhile focus. But I think even bigger than just the specific cortisol that could be improved is we can look bigger and say, how can I be more grounded? How can I think more clearly? How can I have more energy? How can I feel better in my body? How can I be more comfortable? How can I breathe deeper? How can I reduce my unhealthy cravings? How can I balance my moods? How can I think more clearly and see things more accurately? You see what I mean? So there's way more than just getting the cortisol level down. There's all these other benefits that we get when we really dedicate ourselves and honor our relaxation, our energy, our sleep, our hydration, all these things. So, for me anyways, to what it takes to reduce your cortisol, and I can't guarantee because everyone's different, but the first things I would do is that's our lifestyle plan and program yourself. Then in order of importance, sleep, hydration, relaxation, breathing, nourishment, movement, meditation, gratitude. And these 8 things weaved into your life in an intentional way will probably, in my opinion, be your best chance at naturally reducing cortisol levels for most people. Liv says, interesting. Thank you. Need to get into nature more. Yes, absolutely. More nature is another great way to reduce cortisol levels and get all those other benefits. The more nature you get exposed to, usually that's pretty correlated with just more positive things, So yes, agreed, Liv. The more nature we get, the better. Definitely. Liv says, thank you. Let's see. Liv says, thank you. It is worse when I eat badly, so that makes sense. Yeah. And again, when you can look at like making unhealthy food choices, when you can look at those choices beyond just what it's going to do to your weight, I think that's a good thing. I think a lot of people really measure their eating almost solely in terms of if it's going to help me gain weight or lose weight. And I get you want to lose weight, but you've got to take a step back and see the bigger picture. Dieting has caused you to like zoom in and just micromanage and focus on just the calorie piece. And clearly just focus on calories doesn't work. I mean, 75% of the population of American adults are overweight or obese. So clearly just focusing on calories is not enough to succeed. It's a piece. It's definitely important. I mean, I think calories, understanding it and having that as a central part of your program is important, but I don't think it's enough. And I think people constantly overlook this. I think they overlook the mindset component of weight loss. I think it's the biggest missing piece for everyone when it comes to weight loss is they don't know how to change their mindset. And I think once you know how to change your mindset, it's like having a superpower because your mindset is the most primary piece of what's controlling your weight. It's not okay, well, the eating is technically on a physical level, but your eating really flows out of your mindset, right? I mean, you're the same person with the same knowledge in your head. You know what to eat, what not to eat in whatever way you know it. And your eating isn't based on what you know, right? Like you're not like a robot. You're not Dr. Spock who just does the logical thing. You shouldn't eat ice cream and then you go and eat it. Right? I mean, that's why we're all here. I shouldn't eat 5 pieces of pizza, but then you eat it. So what's happening there? Well, it's because you're not a logical creature. No, you're not. If you were a logical creature, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be overweight. You're just like, I want to be this weight and I'm going to do this to make it happen. And there's that. But there's another part of you that is emotional, that is mental, and the way you look at things changes moment to moment. And sometimes you're in a great mood, focused, motivated, all the rest of it, make healthy food choices. And then other times, same you, Same you, same knowledge. Now say, fuck it. I don't care. Who cares? Doesn't matter. And then you go and eat bullshit. So it's like same knowledge of like what to eat and what's good and what's bad, totally different behavior. And I think that to me is really the mindset piece that never gets talked about with dieting. Because dieting, it's like, oh, the only thing you need is a plan. Let me give you the plan and tell you what to do, and then you'll just do it and get results. But that's not true. No one gets results on a diet, not long term. And again, you've succeeded with diets and now you don't succeed with them. So the plan, it's not the plan, it's you. You're in a different place. Mindset wise, you can't get yourself to do it. You can't get yourself to do what you know you should do. And this is because you've never, ever, never once learned how to deal with your mindset when it comes to weight. You just keep learning people telling you what to do, what to eat, how to exercise. But the core problem always remains the same, which is that you don't know how to get yourself to do it consistently. That's always your problem, and it's always going to be your problem until you fix it. So you could learn all the nutritional information. You could do every diet on the planet. It doesn't matter. That's not your problem. The problem isn't knowing what to do. The problem is you don't know how to get yourself to do it consistently. And it's because you have never learned how to influence your mindset, your emotions, this deeper level of what's influencing your weight. So hope that makes sense. Because it's true. And by the way, that's a really important piece to say, because what I'm saying is you all, as smart as you all are, and I know you're smart if you're listening to me, because I talk fast and I know my people. The only people that can get through these podcasts are people that are usually overthinkers, usually perfectionists, usually type A. And my message to you all is that I know you're walking around blaming yourself for not being at the weight you want to be at. You constantly are beating yourself up and blaming yourself for not doing the things to lose the weight. But I'm sitting here telling you as clear as I can that you don't know how to. Yes, you have an eating plan, but you have no idea how to influence your thoughts or your feelings or your behaviors in a real genuine way. And so there's an absence of knowledge there. So I guess maybe make it really crystal clear. It's really not even your fault that you can't lose the weight or haven't been able to, because you literally don't know what to do. And I know you think you do. I know you think, no, Jim, I do know what to do. I just have to get myself to do it. But that's the problem. You don't know how to get yourself to do it. I'll just do it. No, you can do that in the moment. Yes. In the moment, you can make a willpower focus. I'm going to do this. Yes. That's always an option, but it's an option you can use once in a while at best. You can't just keep forcing yourself to make decisions you don't want to make, And so you have to learn how to transform your mindset. Right now, you have the mindset. If you're overweight and have been for a little while, you have the mindset of an overweight person. Just like if you're listening to me now, you have the mindset of an English speaker, right? You understand the words I'm saying naturally and automatically, very easily. And what you're really looking for is to have the mindset of a thin and healthy person. And what you're doing, it would be like saying you want to learn French. Thanks. I love that one. Saying you want to learn French, but you wouldn't learn French by trying to not understand English anymore. Does that make sense? Because that's what you're doing with your weight, is you're trying to not do the things you always do that get you in trouble. But your goal is not to learn how to think, feel, speak, live, eat like a thin, healthy person. You've never done that. You even lose weight like an overweight person, because an overweight person just goes crazy one day and says, that's it, I got to change this, and does some extreme thing for a little while, loses a little bit of weight at best, and then puts it all back on. It's not sustainable. So, yeah, there's a missing, but you have to learn something is what I'm saying. And you're not just going to magically figure out how to deal with your mindset. Your chances of magically learning how to control your mindset are about as likely to succeed as me just sitting you down at a piano and say, okay, learn how to play the piano on your own. It's not going to happen. You have to learn how to think like a thin, healthy person. And unless you have a thin, healthy person around you that can learn from, and someone that can describe all the granular details of it, you're going to struggle. But you're not struggling because you know what to do and you can't get yourself to do it. You're struggling because you fucking don't know what to do. You don't know what to do as much. One of my favorite examples is, think of the Chinese word for fan. Notice that feeling you have right now of nothingness, because you have no idea what that word is. You've never learned it. It doesn't exist in your mind. The neural connections of the Chinese word for fan are like this. They don't exist. They're not connected. It's not a reality in your mind. It doesn't exist. And you thinking, living, eating like a thin, healthy person, think about that. Those, they feel kind of the same, right? Now I say, okay, think about not living the way you're thinking. You do, but you can think about that. Okay, I'll stop overeating. I'll stop eating ice cream. I'll stop eating pizza. I'll stop doing that. I'll stop doing that. But stop doing things you naturally do is not the same as doing things naturally that are going to keep you thin and healthy. And I don't know if that makes sense to you all, but there's a lot of wisdom in that. And it explains why you're struggling so much. Because there's a reason. See, you guys, you're acting like it's, oh, I know everything, I just got to get myself to do it, is such a wrong thought. Because you're wasting time. You're wasting time floundering. You're completely on the wrong path. The truth is you don't know what to do. You have a vague idea of how to eat and maybe exercise. You have a vague idea of the science of weight loss. Great. I'm talking about the actual practical reality of living the life of a thin, healthy person, so that you can A, lose the weight, and then B, stay there forever. And you have no idea how to think, live, and eat like a thin, healthy person. I know you don't, or you would be a thin, healthy person. And it's not a judgment. It's not a criticism. It's a fact, as far as I see it. You know. What's up, Kelly? Kelly says, once your self-image is that of a thin and healthy person, does it remain consistent, or does it fluctuate? Does it take continuing practice? Some days I think I'm there, then a week later I doubt myself. Just started psychocybernetics, by the way. No, it always takes work, because we don't live in a vacuum. Again, right? Listen, I drop you off anytime in history prior to 200 years ago, your weight's pretty much going to be fine. Why? Because there was no hyper palatable, over processed food. There was no super abundance of calories. So, pretty much literally like anywhere I drop you off in history from, 200 years ago to 2 million years ago, you're going to be fine. Your weight's going to be fine. You don't have to worry about your self-image with food. You don't have to worry about your weight, none of that, because the environment is going to support you to be at a natural weight. How could it be anything other than that? I'm not saying there aren't a couple outlier examples. You're a pharaoh or a king or super. So I know there's some outside examples, but for most of history until about 100 years ago, the vast majority of the population didn't have to diet. They didn't have to worry about their self-image. They didn't have to worry about their lifestyle, their thinking, the rest of it, because the environment supported them being at a more natural weight. But now all of a sudden the environment's completely transformed. I mean, we live in a literal and alien environment. Literally, we live in an alien environment that we're not prepared for. You have to understand, we've evolved for millions of years in a food scarce environment. So all of your biology, all your neural wiring, a lot of your genetics, all your genetics are built around, they're built to be in a food scarce environment. And in a food scarce environment, if all of a sudden you stumble across a great source of calories, your brain is set up in a way to get you to eat all of those. Your brain's constantly thinking there's not going to be food tomorrow, so eat as much as you can now. I mean, there's a lot of things, but that's just a general gist of the brains that we're born with. Now, in an older context, that was a great thing, right? So let's just say that, well, classic examples, they study hunter-gatherers, and they'll see, a guy, and he'll find an animal, kill it, and he'll start eating. He'll eat like a leg of it, right? A bunch of meat, right? And he's stuffed full, totally full. He's walking home and he sees a beehive, right? Now, all of a sudden, he eats a ton of honey. How'd you do that? It's called spontaneous voracity. We have the ability to all of a sudden feel way hungrier because, again, that supports survival. In a food scarce environment, the hungrier you get when there's calories around, the higher your chances of survival go. And we're all here because our ancestors had a lot of these tendencies, right? They were the ones that could eat more, that were more prepared for famine times. And so anyways, now we end up in, modern world, and we have these same old evolutionary brains that want us to eat everything. So they think there's not gonna be food tomorrow. But now we're surrounded by hyper addictive, hyper palatable, super high calorie dense foods. So something has to change. You either have to go live in a natural environment when it's food scarce, and then you don't have to do any mental work, or you're going to stay in this alien environment and you're going to change your mindset. You're going to have to upgrade your mindset to that of someone who can remain thin and healthy, being surrounded with an abundance of hyperpalatable foods. Something's got to change, though. You can't bring this old evolutionary brain into this new reality and expect anything good's going to happen. And nothing good is happening weight wise. Again, 75% of the population is overweight or obese. And those numbers are skyrocketed over the last 50 years. It's not genetic. It's our evolutionary brain body in this new alien environment, in a nutshell. So yes, you have to, when you're working on programming yourself to be a thin and healthy person, you've got to absolutely be consistent forever, because we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a we're constantly being tested and tempted and manipulated and all this shit constantly. So I consider the way that I think in my mind of maintaining my weight, of being the person I want to be, being the thin, healthy, happy person I want to be, is a forever process that to me is like surfing or snowboarding. It's like the snowboarding. You have to be very in the moment because the conditions are always changing. It's ice here. It's snowier. There's puffs of snow, little mountains, little moguls, all this different stuff constantly. So you constantly have to like see where we're at and adjust, but it's never static. You never just like upright surfing, same thing, right? Because the wave's constantly changing. And so I think that's how I think of this process in my mind. It's like a garden that you'd have to tend forever. Now, if you have a garden, the initial pieces of a garden are more energy intensive. And once you kind of do a lot of that work, then it becomes more tending, less intensive. But absolutely, you always have to tend to your mind. You always have to tend to your self-image, because we don't live in a vacuum. And so this is the reality we have. I have to do mine. I'm constantly fluctuating. And this is why I say to you, you dieters live in fantasy land, because they've sold you this fantasy that you're going to get your goal weight and you're just going to be this forever different person. And it's not true. Each and every day is another day that you got to deal with it, and some days are easy and some days are harder. Some days are cleaner. Some days you get a little off track. That's just how it's going to be for the rest of your life. There's no alternative to that. So yeah, you got to get in your head that, yes, I'm going to have to do this forever, but it gets easier and easier. Yes, it's continually practicing being the person I want to be, but it gets easier and easier and easier to do that, and certainly it's worth it, I think. Don says, that was a huge shift. I no longer grade the food. I grade how much intake. Oh, that's a good one, Don. Yeah, absolutely. Quality and quantity. And mostly it's the quantity, but again, if I, the food thing, right? Like it is quantity and quality, because in the real world, like again, in the fake world, I put you into jail and I control your calories. I could just feed you Ben & Jerry's ice cream every day and make you lose weight. So how's that possible? I'd give you one of them little cups. I'd give you I don't know how much a pint of ice cream is, but I could give you just Ben & Jerry's ice cream. If that's all I give you all day and that's all you eat, you'll lose weight, So, that's not the world we live in, though. And if you go and try and do that, what's going to happen is in the real world, if you're in jail and I'm in control of your calories, it doesn't matter how triggered or hungry or cravings you get, right? You're not going to get any more calories. But in the real world, if you go and eat a bunch of sugar, what's going to happen for most people is you're going to be triggered to eat more of that. And so again, managing your calories in the real world, yes, technically it's just quantity, like in a very technical sense. But you can't control your ability to control your quantity gets way harder when you're eating way more processed palatable foods. So there is that relationship. And the more clean you're eating, the easier. What's up, Kent? Kent says, I try to add one new strategy and optimize one existing strategy each week. Yeah, that's brilliant. And sometimes, depending on what you're working on, it can take way more than a week. I've spent months, close to years, working on habits and routines, so I'm not in a rush. I don't mind how long things take. My goal is for them to run pretty much automatically. And so I don't mind if some habits take me longer than I want them to, because that's just kind of the way it goes. But I think that's a great strategy, Kent. So nice job with that. To me, Kiki says, as you get older, it becomes do it or die. Yeah, agreed. And you're going to die anyways. So it's like, you might as well, live as long as you can and enjoy the shit out of those years as much as you can. And I know they've somehow transformed the meaning of getting, the most enjoyment out of your life as eating the most bullshit. I have sobered up from that thought. I do not think that way at all anymore. I love treats. I mean, I love eating some treats here and there for sure, but I'm way more grounded and feeling awesome now and for the rest of my life. I want to feel as awesome as I possibly can. And I will take the happiness of eating well and living well over the temporary pleasures of eating bullshit food all day long. And the beauty is you can kind of have both of them, but I think a lot of people get into the narrative that, well, my life would be so boring and empty if I didn't eat, all this bullshit food. I know a lot of people think that, and I think that that's a very dangerous thought, and I don't think it's true either. Prize pool. Yep, Liv says it does make sense. Well, thank you. Yes. And again, for any of you that aren't in my world, make sure you click the link in my bio and go get the hypnosis session. Watch the video I made for you. I give you more free stuff than anyone. I've been giving out the goal weight quiz. Again, you really ought to take that. It is crazy to me. Like the people, I see them on my list and I send that out to them and I see how many people don't do it. And I'm just like, it just reinforces. I'm very excited. Like I said, I'm right on the edge of transforming the way, kind of back to the way I used to do it with my business. And I'm very excited about that because it allows me to find the people that actually want to do something. I will tell you, there is no question. The hardest part of this job for me is people that say they really want to lose weight, but then they don't take any action to make it happen. That is by far the hardest part of this job because people really delude themselves into thinking that they really want to lose weight. And I tell them, I always say, you weigh what you want to weigh. You weigh exactly what you want to weigh. Not consciously. I know consciously you wish you weigh less, but I'm deep down subconsciously you weigh just what you want to weigh. Which isn't to say you don't want to lose weight, by the way. You want to lose weight, but you want to eat the way you're eating and live the way you're living more than you want to lose weight. If you're overweight and you're not losing weight, it's that simple. And this is, verified and validated for me every day because I send people free shit that will help them every single day. And the majority of people never use it. So anyways, like I said, it's exciting for me about the rollout. My marketing plan that allows me to get to connect to those people. Anyways, who cares? What was I going to say? Juna says how to change mindset and habits. How do you change habits and mindset? That's a big ass question. I just want you to know that. Again, it's like someone come up to me and say, well, how do I learn carpentry? It's like, well, you got to make a commitment to probably find a carpenter and be an apprentice. I don't know what the path is, but how do I become a plumber? How do I do plumbing? It's like, that's a big question. So it's I'm not trying to avoid it. I want to make that crystal clear. I never hold back information. I give you what I can, but sometimes questions are so big that it's hard for me to just explain here. So what I will tell you is your best chance of learning how to change habits and mindset the way that I would talk about it is click the link in my bio or go to Program Yourself Thin, get the free hypnosis session. Okay. It's 10-minute hypnosis session, the new Thin Me, free. Get it, listen to it. But then you're brought to a video and it's the 3 steps to master your weight. I would watch that video and that will go through how your mind works, how it impacts your weight, how to deal with it, habits and mindset to some degree. There's a lot of foundational information that's going to help you do that. And if you watch that and then you come back tomorrow, I'm here every day, Monday through Friday, right around noon Eastern, and ask a more specific question, how you want to apply that, because how to change habits and mindset so big in general that the answer I would give you would be almost meaningless. And so I guess the answer I'm giving you is go click the link in my bio, go get the hypnosis session, watch the videos, 20 minutes or whatever, but that'll give you much more understanding of how to do those exact things. And then it'll probably bring up some of the questions too. Get on here, ask them. I'm happy to answer them. All right. Gratitude 108 says, great podcast today. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it is a good one. Sometimes taking a day off is good. What's up, Don? Don says, now it's so much easier to just do the right thing and harder to get off track. The program really is life-changing. Yeah, thank you, Don. I appreciate you saying that because Don's a superstar and it is fun. It's always fun. That's one of the coolest things. The group program, people have been in it for a while. They'll just like mastering their weight. It's cool. It's always fun to watch that. And it's fun to watch it happen in a group setting, which is relatively new. And it's really exciting to see. But Don's right on the money that with this approach I'm talking about, because we're very strategic right from the beginning, the goal is not to lose weight. With Program Yourself Thin, the goal is not to lose weight. I know that's what you all want. You think you want, but that's not really your goal. The goal is not to lose weight. That's how you think of it. Your goal really is to live at your goal weight. What's the difference? Losing weight is about getting to your goal weight, right? That's what dieting is all about, that process of going from where you're at now to losing the weight to get to your goal weight. That's it. But then there's nothing after that. And again, this is why the diets sell you this bullshit fairy tale that once you just get to your goal weight, then you're just going to be there forever. Even though 95% of people that lose weight on a diet put it back on, probably you included. How many times have you lost weight and put it back on? So losing weight and living at your goal weight are two completely different things. In your entire life, when it comes to weight, 100% of the time, you have been fixated and focused on losing weight. So at this point, you have extreme strategies that make you lose weight quickly. And you can't get yourself to do them now. You're apathetic. And that's where most of my clients kind of start with me at. So my goal, and on day one of Program Yourself Thin, the goal is the same as it is on day 1,000. It's how can I live at my goal weight for the rest of my life on near autopilot? So right from day one, we're focusing on maintenance. How do you live at your goal weight? And how you live at your goal weight is you build around your habits, you build around your routines, you build around your subconscious mind that kind of runs your autopilot mode. And when you do that, yeah, you get to a place where it's just easier to do the right thing because you've strategically engineered it into your life. You've reinforced your mindset to support it, and you've kind of practiced it. Again, the concept of practicing being thin and healthy is so foreign to you. But what a crazy fucking idea to think that you don't need to practice this. Again, it's absolute insanity for dieters to think. I mean, this is the height of dieting delusion. Is this idea that you're going to start on a Monday, your keto plan, your intermittent fasting, it doesn't matter. Pick your shit. But you're going to start your plan on Monday perfectly. And you're going to be perfect with your plan until you reach your goal weight. Like, where are you coming up with that? Why would you ever think you're going to be perfect starting on Monday until you reach your goal weight? Like, if you think that, you are so divorced from reality. What's your experience been? You know, like you can't just all of a sudden, because tomorrow's Monday, so I'm just gonna be a totally different person. I mean, yeah, it sounds great. Who wouldn't want that, I suppose? But what are the chances that you can just magically, completely 180 degree turn yourself into a different person in one day? Like, if it was that easy and that was such an option, why wouldn't everyone just do it instead of fucking no one doing it? No one does it. So why would you think you could do that? I don't understand that. I know you've been brainwashed and you're just kind of like always fixated on dieting and losing weight and all the rest. I get that. Okay. But I'm saying take a step back, take a deep breath and let it out. Okay. And then you explain to me, you tell me, and I'm asking genuinely, please. So if you have an answer, please put it out there. I would love to see I don't know. You tell me what is different between now and that magical Monday that's going to show up where from that point forward, you're just perfect. How does that work exactly? Could you explain that process to me? Because I don't understand it. I don't know how I could wake up tomorrow being a completely different person. So I think you need to practice stuff. But when you do it strategically and systematically, it's not that hard to master your weight at all. It's a lot easier. Ironically, it's easier to live at your goal weight than it is to lose weight. You know? Because with losing weight, you're so fixated on doing it quick that you choose extreme, overwhelming things. And at this point, you're just like, oh, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to do it. You hate weight loss now, even though it's the greatest thing in the world. With Program Yourself Thin, it's all about living at your goal weight. So we do things comfortably. Because if you're overwhelmed and stressed, what's the point? You're not going to keep it up. Yeah. But I'm glad you said that, Don, because it is true, right? It just gets easier and easier. If you're strategic and systematic with what you're doing, it's absolutely, it's easier to get yourself to do the right things that keep you at your goal weight. So I'll leave you with that. That's a good point. That's real. All right. So if you're not in my world, click the link in my bio, go get the hypnosis session. It's free. Watch the video I made for you. It's free. Read the emails I send. They're free. I'll send you the goal weight quiz at some point again this week. You'll get that. It's really good because guess what? All weight loss starts with having the right goal weight. You probably don't have the right goal weight. So I take you through this quiz to help you identify your goal weight and why. And then I reinforce it for you. It's all free. Jesus, what do I have to do, folks? I got to pay you all. I got to pay you to take action to lose weight and feel better. Kelly says, comparison's the thief of joy, but why can some get this more easily than others? But I mean, Kelly, like, who gives a shit about that question? You know what I mean? I hate that question, Kelly. I'm going to be honest. And it's like, why can some get this more easily than others? I don't give a shit because there's different people in the world. Okay. But I would if my mind's going to go down that path. Okay. And yes, we're always going to compare. So I'm not saying you're never going to compare, but you can compare way more effectively, Kelly. And the more effective way to compare would say, how could I understand this more easily like they do? What would it feel like if I was Susie who gets this so easily? What would that feel like? If I just got this and it internalized it and I just like, that was me all of a sudden, how would that be? What would I think? What would I say? What would I do? What would it be like to feel that way? What would it be like to be the person who just got this easily? You get that, Kelly. Okay. So adjust that because we're always going to compare. That's fine. But let's compare in a way that sets us up for success. Right. Because what am I going to start saying? Why do they get it more easily than me? Where do your questions go? Right. They basically all funnel down to this basic because I'm a stupid asshole and they're great. And I'm always going to be dumb. You know what I mean? Like that question leads right to a limiting belief that it's reinforced more. And I don't want that to happen. Again, fine. Some people get it more than I do. They get it quicker. That's fine. That's life. That's definitely true. Okay. But in that moment, I was like, oh my God, how come they get so much easier? And I struggle so much that's a negative mindset. I don't want to reinforce. I would much rather say, how could I learn this more easily? How could I get this in a way that really sticks? And now my brain's focusing on the solution. All right. X says, I start losing weight with eating 4 meals a day and lots of veggies and protein with some carbs. Some people said insulin spikes if we eat often. What are your thoughts? I don't count calories. Oh my God, insulin spikes. I listen, I don't get into the minutia of insulin spikes, glucose spikes, all of that shit first. My first thing is if I'm eating a lot more vegetables and clean proteins and clean foods, and it's like a lot cleaner than it used to be. Like, I don't know. I feel great about that. I'm not worried about insulin spikes, all the rest of it. You may not like that answer. I'm not giving you a lot of detail in there, but I just think that there's so much bullshit out there. There's just so much bullshit out there that people can like pick one little thing out of something and then create a whole diet around it. And I see that so often. So I don't know. First of all, what I'd want to know, X, like literally what you're asking, I don't know how specific this is, but if I was worried about insulin spikes, the easiest way to kind of check if your insulin spiking is to get a glucose monitor, because if your glucose spikes, that's usually what precedes the insulin spike. Okay. So glucose, all food is broken down into glucose and that goes into your blood. That's your blood sugar. Okay. And so as your glucose blood sugar goes up, you can't have too much. It's toxic. So as your glucose levels go up, your blood sugar levels go up, your pancreas releases insulin to bring them back down. Okay. Keep it simple. And so I don't know. I'm sure like you can measure insulin or whatever, but the glucose spikes, they're two sides of the coin. So you can get a glucose monitor real easy and you can start monitoring your glucose if you want to. But I think that for most people, unless you're in diabetic land, I don't know how valuable that would be. But I do know that consistently cleaning up your eating and putting healthier and healthier, cleaner, more natural foods into your diet, moving more and more away from processed foods, I don't think you go wrong that way. So I know I'm speaking very generally here, but again, yeah, I just keep experimenting and what I enjoy and works well for me so I can keep going long term. I think that's the strategy, X. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with that strategy is what I'm saying. And I think when you start, sometimes you can start getting so fixated on the minutia of certain things. It could be your glucose, but it's like, I don't think we even know enough. Everybody's different, So again, before I got into the micromanaging of glucose levels, my first thing, now again, if you're a diabetic, you're in a different category, but if you're just like a person who's not diabetic, I don't want to get fixated and obsessed with the glucose pieces. I would much rather invest that energy into cleaning up my eating, making it more whole, natural, getting it dialed in with structure and that way. And yeah, like you said, experimenting with what you enjoy and works well for you. I think that path is the golden path. And then, at some point in the future, if you want to take into account glucose and all the rest of it, fine. But I would rather go about it that way. Liv's going to go get emails. Nice job, Liv. Henny Lou, why do people Why do you think people binge eat? I think there's three big reasons people binge eat, and I'm sure there's more, but these are the big three I see over and over. Number one by a mile is hunger. I find a lot of people over restrict and get themselves so hungry that now they can't control their eating. In addition to that, and it can show up with it, is emotions. Okay. So you have these intense emotions you don't like, and you don't know how to deal with them genuinely. So you turn to the food to basically distract yourself from it, and or use that binge shame cycle to distract yourself from the shitty emotions you don't want to feel. And then the third one is habits. You just have kind of habits where, I don't know, again, Friday night comes and it's binge night, and you just kind of binge. And so now it's like very Pavlovian, and it can be one or all three of these always working together. But those are usually the starting points for when I work with someone, we want to diagnose what the binge is going on, is we'll understand what's causing it first. Okay. Because once you understand which of those three or of those three it is, and it could be multiples of them, but once you understand the things that are triggering the binge, now instead of just fighting against the binge, we go deeper and we resolve the binge. So if it's a hunger based thing, we don't let ourselves get too hungry. If it's an emotional thing, we learn how to deal with our emotions more genuinely in ways that don't include food. If it's habitual, we start to, work on the habit piece of it. So that's kind of the big picture overview answer to that one. Don said, it took me 2 years to get this down. I immersed myself in this program, these lives, and the books Jim recommended. Yeah, again, Don's just killing it. And it's like, that's what I try to say to you all. Again, dieting really does sell you a fairy tale, because if you really look at like what you're thinking about dieting, you're going to realize there's no there. It's not a well thought out idea. The idea that you're going to diet yourself doing whatever to your goal weight, and then what? And you're going to realize there's no there for in terms of maintenance. You have no plan for maintenance. It's a very vague thing where it's probably somewhere in the ballpark of I'll figure it out. Well, you won't. And so program yourself. Then when you see people a year, 2 years into the program, it's like they've learned to speak another language. You know what I mean? Like it's not going anywhere. They've developed these neural connections, this muscle memory. They've developed this way of being, these mindsets, these lifestyles, these eating patterns and structures. And so they have things they've been working on the whole time. It's like anything. I mean, if you start golfing, if you practice golfing for 2 years and you practice your swing strategically and structurally and all the rest of it, 2 years from now, no one can take that away from you. It's embedded into you. That's the purpose of programming yourself thin. Dieting is not built to change your mindset, your nervous system, you know what I mean? Your inner being. Dieting is just built for you to, I always say like you're cosplaying, cosplay, like costume playing. You're dressing up like a thing. You're acting like a thin person for a little while. You're just dressing up like it on the outside. You haven't changed how you think, how you respond to food, how you eat, how you emote, how you deal with your hunger. And so you haven't dealt with anything. So when you learn those little skills, when you keep learning all the little things that make you a thin, healthy person, that's what you all don't understand, you dieters, because you always think of dieting being it's something you have to force yourself to do. You have to be very engaged and active to do it. When we program yourself, then we're strategically weaving this into our lives so that the way we naturally eat, act, think, live makes us thin and healthy. You naturally, the way you live, think, eat now keeps you overweight. Like it's not hard for you to be overweight. It's just automatic. Now you're not overweight. Your weight's not going. Now it might go up a little bit, 3, 4, 5 pounds a year, maybe year after year. That's kind of a lot, but most people's weights kind of in the ballpark stays pretty similar, which reveals that there's a deeper program going on. That's basically you're consuming similar amounts of calories all the time. And it's happening on autopilot. It's like a smoker. Smokers are fascinating. I used to work a lot with smokers, and, someone who's, let's just say, smokes a pack of cigarette a day. Let's just say that's 20 cigarettes a day. That's 20 cigarettes a day. And they're smoking those on autopilot. That's the fascinating part, because they don't have they don't have like on their planner, cigarette 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like a timer going off. Oh, time to smoke my third cigarette. It's all autopilot. But when you start to take a step back and look at it, it's very, very strategic. They smoke the cigarettes at the same time every day. Now, they have a work schedule and an off work schedule typically, but it's all running automatically in the background, and it gets them through 20 cigarettes every day on autopilot. No, they didn't have to put it on their planner. Okay. Well, your eating's the same way. The way you eat, the way you think, the way you live, the way you eat, it's mostly done on autopilot. And when you diet, you're trying to fight against that autopilot for a little while, and you can do it for a little while maybe, but then you always go back to your autopilot and your weight goes back up to where you are. So program yourself, then we're looking to change the autopilot settings. so you don't have to micromanage yourself all the time. Now, again, you are monitoring things. I mean, there is some willpower being used, you're still monitoring it, but most of it's being driven subconsciously in an automated way. And that's a much better approach for weight loss and living at your goal weight. So believe me when I tell you, it doesn't have to be so hard. It really doesn't. I know people don't believe that. Why would you believe it? Yeah, that's right, Don. Yeah. And it started with a cigarette and then grew to a pack a day. Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. But you see it, but it's very automated, And so it's the automation nature of your mind is really what Program Yourself Then is built around. It's your subconscious mind. You have a conscious mind, a subconscious mind. The subconscious part of your mind runs your automated behaviors, things you do on repeat without even realizing it. That's where the real secret of getting control of your weight is getting control of that part of your mind. So you naturally and automatically and habitually do the things that keep you at your goal weight. Because your whole life, you've been fighting against those things. So it's a game changer. So like I said, if you want to go deeper into this process, click the link in my bio, go to Program Yourself Then, get the free hypnosis session, watch the video, read the emails, all that stuff. Pop on here. I'm here every day, Monday through Friday. Pretty much I wasn't here yesterday, but most days I'm here right around noon Eastern. Get on here, ask your questions. I'm happy to help you. It's a mission for me. If you miss these and you want to like listen to this is also a podcast, Program Yourself Then. And it's up there every day. And on any of the podcast platforms, you can find it. All right. Vicky finally says you have to stay connected to your mind and your body, and your eating long-term helps me to stay on track. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a process, no doubt about it, but it's a process that gets easier. That's the point. I think people think of dieting as being miserable and difficult from the beginning to the last day you do it. And Program Yourself Then, we make it easy in the beginning, and it's all built around being easy because we want to program things in that run automatically so that it is easy. I want you to live at your goal weight for the rest of your life on near autopilot. I want you to learn how to think, live, and eat like a naturally thin and healthy person in the easiest, most enjoyable way possible. It's stated right in the goal, right from the beginning. That's the goal. Okay. So when you set better goals, you tend to, get better results. So, all right, everyone, have a super duper day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.